You right? Oh, boys and girls, welcome to the Pucknologists, episode 132 here on Teal Town, USA. I am underscore something or other. AJ underscore strong on the social media. Joining me tonight, of course, the one and only hockey jerk.
Who?
And, yeah, there you go. Oh, really? Dude, can't you, change shirts once in a while? You've been rocking that for, the last 3 shows. Let's see if we can't get you out of that, shall we? Hey, look at that. Uprising, man. Baby. You love to see it. Oh, hey. Have a happy Mother's Day, would you? I hope you guys are all having a good time. Good, nice little Sunday, if you were, to wrap up your week. And don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, all those fun little places. And don't forget, if you ever miss a show, want to catch it again, it's on your favorite podcast platform at tealtownusa.com and always on our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe. And if you ever want to help the show, you can use that super chat option during the live shows or toss a little something in our Venmo tip jar. You can find it at tealtownusa. Thank you for the support. We appreciate it. So this time around, well, it was an eventful week, wasn't it? We're going to talk about the Tom Wilson debacle, NBC looking to sell their regional sports outlets, and let's say giving credit to people who break news. But first, let's get into the Sharks games this week. A week where the Sharks played 4 games, took 4 of a possible 8 points. They're currently 6th in the division. Likely will finish 7th, but LA has 2 games in hand. Either way, and we'll get into this as well, Jerk, I guess you could say this was an improvement after finishing last season in the basement.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, they're on the stairs of the basement, but at least they're not in the basement. So, I believe I said last year that from here you can only go up, and they've done that. We did not speak on how high up they would go.
We did not mark a rung on the ladder.
No, we did not.
No. All right, Game 1 versus Colorado. It's a 5-4 loss in overtime. Jones with the start. Will it be his last? We shall see.
God willing.
Goals come from Kane, Hertl, Kane again, and then let me see if I'm pronouncing this right. Meyer. I don't know. It's been a while since I've had to say that name. The Sharks piss away a 2-goal lead twice in this one. Jones would let in 3, shall we say, I don't know, horrific goals, including the game winner in overtime, and even Boughner calling, pretty much everything except calling Jones out by name.
I don't know. 3 bad goals, didn't get a save. I don't know. What did you guys watch the game? It's pretty obvious.
And
yikes!
Quick, that quote that Bob delivered for us. Do you happen to know which local media member it was that prompted that response?
Oh, I do not, unfortunately.
Okay.
Why do you ask, though? I'm curious.
I don't know. I may have seen the full clip. I thought it might have been you.
Could be.
I'm just, what? I'm still hoping for him to just, oh yeah, Bob, so question. And Bob's just like, who is this guy?
Yeah. AJ, enough. You've asked enough questions. So the loss eliminated the Sharks officially from the postseason. If you ask Jerk, I think he officially eliminated them sometime around Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. A fun one in this, though. Randy Hahn. This was great. Randy Hahn talking about some whining going on about the officiating.
McKinnon falling and jumping to the puck and clearing his Hertl.
McKinnon looking for a penalty on Hertl there. Doesn't get the call.
A lot of whining about the officiating down there tonight.
You can see it happening.
A lot of whining about the officiating down there tonight. Have you ever hung out in the broadcast booth?
I was going to say,
Hetty has done a good share of whining about officiating this season. I'm just saying.
yeah, I was going to say it's kind of ironic when you consider that there are times this season where their commentary has devolved into whining. I still don't understand what Hetty's beef with Kirill Kaprizov is, but whatever.
I'm telling you. And then to make matters worse for Heddekin, I don't know if this is like a Freudian slip kind of a thing, but let's play it and we'll get into it.
You know, talking about villains, Rafi Torres was a villain until he became a Shark. Then everybody loved the guy. I'd say top villain right now for the fans, probably Ryan Reeves.
Or Wilson.
Yeah, I mean for Sharks fans.
For Sharks.
Yeah, top fan for Sharks fans right now. Absolutely, Doug Wilson. How funny was it that played out just like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're wondering where Brett Heddekin's actually been these last two games, I mean, okay, it's obvious he meant Tom Wilson, but just like to your point, brutal Freudian slip. I mean, just out of context, it looks like it just looks like a hit piece.
Dude, I'm telling you. Let's take it to the chat real quick here. Satan asking, do you think Drew Remenda makes a full-time return next season? Well, as part of the pre- and post-game show, perhaps. I don't think he'll return as, the color guy that he was, but as far as I remember, I think he was on the docket to join for like 8 games, ended up doing like 13. So they're obviously liking what they're getting from him. And if you look at last night, there was no Curtis Brown. It was just Laura Britt and Drew, and it was fantastic. So
yeah, I think if they do plan on keeping Drew Remenda around beyond this season, I think they need to mail him a proper microphone stat.
Yeah.
I mean,
by way of Mark E.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, obviously, but I thought in 2021 that we were past doing radio, television, and podcast hits with AirPods.
You right. Finally on this one, the morning after this 5-4 overtime loss, Boughner addressed the media, and I asked about the issues with playing with the lead because through this game, that would mark 26 losses on the season for the Sharks, and in 16 of those, the Sharks actually had a lead. Dude, learn how to play with the lead. Let's talk to Boughner. Out of the 26 losses this season, 16 of them the Sharks have had a lead in those games. Is that something that you're going to focus on from now throughout the end of the season, is learning how to play with that lead and lock it down?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had situations where the games have been tight, and then that, again, it just comes down to, I'm sure there's mistakes made. The margin of error is not great, as we know, and I think that we try to get our best players to be our best players every night, and it's not going to happen. And some inexperience is shown there. Some guys maybe playing up in positions that probably they're expecting a little too much too soon, but that all comes with time. And again, like I said, I mean, the business part of it's a process, and same as learning from your mistakes and getting better and improving every day. And that's just that comes with it. And that's goaltending, that's special teams, that's your giveaway rates, and managing the puck, and all the things that we talk about every day. We're going through this process, and it's been a lot of learning, and it's been a lot of teaching. And hopefully next year we're going to be a better team because of that.
I'll hope you'll be a better team next year.
You know what? I've said it all year, but man, I really love listening to Bob talk.
He's definitely feels like a no nonsense kind of guy. He's not gonna go Daryl Sutter on you and give you the boring monosyllabic answers.
Mm-hmm.
but he's not going to give you the cliche stuff. You know, "Oh, we got to get pucks deep, blah, 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 blah." Like, he actually kind of gives you a little peek inside.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, his answers, like, they have substance to them. You know what I mean? Like, there's something where you can take it and you can, I don't want to say learn something, but you can help kind of develop the photo that you've had so far, where it's like, okay, Bob identified this as a problem. Let me go back and see if that's how I saw it as well. You know what I mean? So I like you said, he's no nonsense, and he's unapologetically transparent, which I really appreciate, because it seems as though the operating stance, if you will, has been very rah cheerleader, everything's okay, and Bob's like, oh, all right, watch this, and it's very refreshing for me.
Absolutely. So we get into the next game, Game 2 versus Colorado. This one, the Sharks pull off a 3-2 win. Kozanosh would be back in the net. And this one, I want to say, because they were officially eliminated in the previous one, saw some movement in the roster where Chmelevski comes in, True comes in, Milosh comes in. Meanwhile, Donato, Leonard, and Yarosh slide out. I think this is probably maybe, I mean, tell me I'm wrong, Jerk, but is this kind of like, first, let's see what we have in some of the CUDA guys, and maybe also a reward for someone like Sasha, who's done really well with the CUDA as of late.
Yeah, I would say both of those points you're correct on. I mean, like, Chmelevski, to your point, has played very well. Alex True has played very well. Noah Gregor, I mean, he's kind of been the shuttle guy, and he's stuck around as of late. So I think it's rewarding guys who've done good things. I think it's seeing what you have in certain guys. And I think, too, whether or not this is the entire story or not, I mean, the Sharks are kind of dinged with injuries right now. I mean, John Leonard's banged up, Ryan Donato's banged up, Shimmick is banged up, Couture, Blickfeld's banged up. Sorensen, the only thing wrong with him is his feelings are hurt. But you're kind of seeing, partially by necessity, partially by interest, I would say, you're seeing different guys every night, which I think is kind of fun, because, you know, when your goal is not like playoffs, you know, when you're literally just trying to finish the season and then look forward next year, you want to see what you have in guys.
Yep. And
this is the best way to do it, is to just throw them in.
Yeah, throw them in the deep end, see if they can swim.
Yep.
I'm looking at some great comments in the chat, a couple from our buddy Chester Chivo, and we will get to those after we wrap these up. So stick around, because, again, I see some really great comments tonight. So my notes on this one, look, it's the Sharks give up 2 goals, but they are able to roar back with 3 unanswered. Hertl would snag 2 goals in what it was his 500th NHL game, while Erik Karlsson would get the game winner on the power play, which I'm assuming was just to mess with me.
Holla! Oh, AJ, nothing to say tonight?
Not even close.
I want to make a note here about Hertl really quick. 2 goals tonight, as you mentioned. You know, a couple weeks ago when we did the who's hot, who's not, and we agreed nobody is really hot, yeah. I kind of think that we neglected Hertl just a bit. You know, I mean, Chief, it's in the month of May, 9 points in 5 games, which is pretty solid. But
carried the team. That whole line carried the team for a few games there.
Exactly, and also he's got 43 points in 49 games this year, which that pace is very close to the pace he was scoring at when the Sharks went to the Western Conference Final 2 years ago. He would be, you know, if he played 77 games again like he did that year, he'd be on pace for 68 points, which is not bad if you ask me.
Yeah, and boy, it's almost, I mean, it took him a little while to come back from the Rona, but...
And that's the thing, is like he can be, you know, totally asymptomatic. That doesn't mean that, you know, you're going to struggle to breathe and do all that kind of stuff.
No, I feel like dude has, you know, it took him a couple games to get back in the swing, but he's, you know, showing that kind of Hertl of old, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I mean, even Boughner talked about that we're actually relying on the Hertl line too much. We need more from the other guys. So
Yeah, and Kevin Kerr's
Who?
and one more thing actually, Hertl, if he played 77 games, which I'm going back to that season again, that's 30 goals. Can't complain.
not at all.
Kevin Kerr is actually, he sent out a tweet a couple days ago. It's pretty apparent that this team is a one-line team. 100% true. I'm just glad that they've graduated from being a zero-line team, because it sure felt like that's what they were during that losing streak.
Oh, you're so right. So we move out of the Colorado series that we put to bed 4 in a row against the Avs, dear Lord, and face the Coyotes for 2 more times, marking the end of them being in the same division. I was going to say Pacific. I guess I can because it's technically true. Kozanash would get yet another start. This is the one that we all heard that Couture was out with a lower body injury, pretty much done for the season. Leonard would slot back in for Chmelevski, and among the Sharks starters, 8 players, 23 or younger. But yeah, we're not rebuilding though.
Well, to that I say, you say 8 players 23 or younger, wondering where all the people are that say, oh, the Sharks have no youth. Because they're out there.
Absolutely. And they're all on Facebook. For the second time this week, the Sharks proved that they cannot hold a 2-goal lead. Evidently the most dangerous lead in hockey, if you are in fact the Sharks. John Leonard would catch a rut and go down awkwardly into the boards. Is going to be out for the final 2 games. Missed the rest of this one. Pavelka even tweeting out about how the ice had deteriorated in the second period. But tell me more about all that money that was spent in the offseason making sure the tank had quality ice. It's been a little iffy. Is what I'm saying.
I hate to question somebody's ability to do their job, especially when I don't know how to do their job.
Yeah.
But with all the money that's been dumped into the arena, to your point, new humidifiers, new ventilation system, new lights, new cement, new pipes, it makes me question.
No fans
as well. Yeah, good point. It makes me question the crew that's works on the ice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is a game. Sharks get up by 2 and then allow 4 unanswered. And Phil Kessel was a big part of it. We'll get into him and what he did this week against the Sharks in a second, because we go on to the final game of the week, a 5-4 loss in overtime. Alexei Melnichuk would get his first NHL start, and the Sharks, for the 3rd time in a week, were unable to hold a lead. Jesus Christ.
Well, and you know what? Despite, we'll get into it, but despite allowing 5 goals, I don't feel like Melnichuk played too terribly.
No, I thought it was not a lot of good plays in front of him. I mean, you had, Burns getting his ankles broken on the first Arizona goal.
Yeah.
I mean, yikes. It was, give the guy a break,
Yeah, I mean, for his, in his first start to bring it to overtime. I mean,
yeah, not everybody can be Nolan Schaefer in their first start, is what we're saying. But of course, the talk of the town when it came to this game, and yes, here it comes, everybody. Get your keyboards at the ready. Erik Karlsson showed just an amazing highlight reel of stick handling towards the end of the second period, making Phil Kessel look like he shouldn't even be playing beer league hockey. Now, that was great. It was awesome. It was really cool to watch that 3 or 4 seconds.
Is this going to be turn into you talking about how he's such a hot dog and all this stuff?
No, not a hot dog.
Okay, good.
Not a hot dog. Well, I mean, we're talking about Phil Kessel. Hot dogs have to come and do it somehow. But that play, it didn't lead to a scoring chance. And these same people ignored when EK65 got absolutely pyloned for Arizona's 4th goal. And they also conveniently forgot how Kessel picked up 5 points against the Sharks this weekend, including the overtime winner last night. And where did that come from? Oh, yeah, picking off EK65 for his 10th goal in 8 games and while Carlson barely skated back to stop that play, again proving the adage, hard work beats skill when skill does not work hard. Over these 2 games, Phil Kessel, 2 goals, 3 assists, +4. Erik Karlsson, 1 goal, no assists, -2.
Dude, Phil Kessel has 20 goals this season. 10 of them are against the Sharks.
Yeah, no, it's insane. I mean, noted shark killer. And
It's dominance is what it is.
Oh, dude, it's insanity. But that's my point. It was everybody's so hyper focused on this like 5-6 seconds of play.
It was pretty cool though.
Oh, dude, it was an amazing stick dangle. But we've seen a similar play from. Remember that play? I want to say it was either last season, season before, and it was against. I remember it was against Colorado. Kevin LeBanc from the blue line, like put a puck between a guy's legs. He's dipsy doing in the slot, and then takes it by himself down low, buries it. It was a highlight reel. But
right,
but I hear a lot of not so great things about Kevin LeBanc too. Oh, what? Well, you can't just focus on that one play? No? Okay.
You know what I'm this game, I think it was kind of unfortunate that the Sharks ended up losing this game just because I think they showed like that they still had some fight in them. You know what I mean? Down 1-0, down 2-1, down 4-3, and they came back every time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And especially, too, Balcers. That's a guy the Sharks want things from. LeBanc, Meyer, Barabanov. These are young guys that the Sharks want and need things to happen from, and they happened, So I think if you're looking at it and you say, okay, yeah, we didn't get the win, but, how do we feel about our young guys after just this one game? I think you're feeling pretty good. You know what I mean? Gambrell, Chmelevski factoring into the equation as well with assists. So, I think,
dude, can we say enough things about Barabanov?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it screams, 7 points in 8 games. It screams flash in the pan.
Yes.
But at the same time, like this is not Melker Karlsson scoring a goal in 5 straight games his rookie year. Like Barabanov, look at, check the stats. Look at the homework. Barabanov is a good player and has the stats to back up said status as a good player. I'm not saying that, he's going to score at a pace of 7 points every 8 games for the rest of his career, but I don't think bringing this kind of offense, I don't think it should be a big shock, at least for those who are familiar with his prior history.
You're absolutely right, my buddy. My final notes on this one, and it's, I wouldn't say it's particularly about these 4 games, but Randy Hahn, Brody Brazil, and a couple others, they've pointed back at that kind of run in April, particularly against the Kings and the Ducks. They went like 0-7-1. That was the undoing of the season. That was the reason why they couldn't slide into that 4th spot. And I take issue with that. I through 55 games, the Sharks have lost 27, so almost half of their games, right? But 13 of those, the Sharks had the lead. And of 7 losses in overtime, in 6 of them, the Sharks had a lead. So I can't look at it and say, oh, it was right with the, it was a bad couple of weeks with 0-7-1. I'm going, no, I think it's more the fact that there was so many missed opportunities where they had a lead and couldn't hold it, whether it was the defense, whether it was the goaltending, combination of both. 2 things can be true. Whatever, I think that stands out more for me than, a crappy week and a half.
Well, and you're going to see even good teams. You're going to see teams squander leads. It happens all the time.
And you're going to see teams have a bad week.
Yeah, but to your point, to squander a lead that many times, it's just brutal. Like if you cleaned up half of those games, maybe we're having a different conversation.
Yeah, you're right. So, and this is, of course, Jerk's favorite point of the show because we've been talking about it all season. After 55 games, the Sharks have 49 points. Last season, after the same amount, they had 52 points.
Damn it.
They only play one more game. The best they can do is 51, sir. But, as I noted early in the show, they will not finish in the basement. Mathematically, it can't happen. Anaheim was that bad. So we give Jerk half a cookie because he said they would be better this season. And if you don't look at the points, but just look at the standings, Jerk was right.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And also because, as you know, I'm the math guy here. So the Sharks, they've got, as it stands right now, they have 49 points in 55 games. That pace, if you math that out over 70 games, which is how many they played last year, they would have 62 points. They finished last year with 63 points. So
Satan calling it out.
I'm just saying, if the Sharks win this next game, points per game might be in my favor.
Well, there you go. There you go. And now I have to ask you, because there are some people lamenting it, what's the drinking game next season now that Arizona's out of the division? Is it something about like mentions of like Pike's Market or something whenever they play Seattle or something?
I've never been to Oregon, so I couldn't tell you. But I think it has to be something, I don't know, take a drink every time you hear, oh, sorry there, Honor. Oh, sorry, Randy.
Oh, the heady drinking game. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe take a drink every time Hedekin is 2/3 of the way through making a point and then starts over as if you weren't listening.
Oh, man. And speaking of the broadcast group, look, I mean, I love the guys who do pre and post, but am I the only one that's tired of Curtis Brown refusing to talk about something if it's not positive? Like, there's more than a couple times when, like, Brody's brought something up that's it's not a good stat. Laura Britt this week started to mention the power play, and it's been atrocious. I believe it's like 28th in the league. It's horrible. And he's like, well, I don't want to talk about, that. I want to talk about, how beautiful the Sharks' head looks or something. It's like, bro, the Sharks aren't paying you. It's NBC. You can at least acknowledge reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on.
I don't know. I just,
I love you, man, but geez.
It further confirms my decision to not watch anything except for the game itself. You know what I mean? As soon as that anthem's over, 7:37, that's when we fire the TV on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And goes to intermission, set a timer for 18 minutes, go do something else.
Well,
that's the if you wanted to watch the game like me.
Hockey Jerk Vision.
Yep.
So, final game coming up against Vegas, who are, let me check that's right, undefeated against San Jose this season, 7-0. However, this game could actually mean nothing for Vegas if they are able to beat Colorado tomorrow. Mathematically, Colorado would not be able to catch them. So, there's that. And now playing the part of Curtis Brown, AJ, hey, I can try to be positive.
So, really quick, only because you were talking about NBC before, I feel the need to pile on a little bit.
Pile it on.
Did you happen to see we'll say, flambang that Pashelka did of NBCS Sharks this morning?
No, I did not. Lay it on me. See, it was Mother's
man.
Day, so I had to spend a little time with the parental unit. Lay it on me.
Yeah, so
did they plagiarize?
Well, so basically, I don't know how familiar you are with pro wrestling, but this is essentially the Twitter version of a Stone Cold Stunner. Pashelka, love him, follows me on Twitter.
Oh, he's awesome.
He just said, just my opinion, but Sharks beat writers, and obviously talking about himself, Kevin, Shang, all those guys,
sure,
should have received some money from NBCS Sharks for basically providing 5 to 10 minutes of content for every pre- and post-game show this season.
Oh, yes, thank you for calling that out.
Even better, Pashelka tagged them.
Good. Good.
Oh man,
that is fantastic. Oh, I'm gonna have to
and
slide into Pashelka's DMs and give him a stick tap for that.
and we've talked about that before. Like, how many times have they put out an article that the skeleton of it is someone else's article?
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, Kevin Kurz of The Athletic wrote about restricted free agents and offer sheets. What do you think? It's like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's those. Oh my Lord, stick taps to Pashelka for that one, because again, I understand, like Brody and Curtis, they're employed by them, but it's not them. It's the people behind the scenes. It's the quote unquote writers that are, borderline plagiarists.
Oh, Vince G gets my wrestling references. Pashelka from the top rope. That's incredible.
Well, I mentioned it earlier. I want to get to it now as we kind of sashay our way out of that and into some other stuff. What is the plan for next season? Are we actually even going to know anything until the expansion draft? Here's a cool question that I'm looking forward to your answer on, Jerk, from our buddy. If Hasso fires Wilson, which I don't think is going to happen, but if hypothetically fires Wilson, hires you, Jerk, as the general manager, what are the first three moves you make? And I'm going to switch that up and say, what are the next two moves you make after buying out Jones?
Well, okay, so let me ask you this: Do I have full creative control of the situation, or
dude,
do
you
I
own the checkbook?
Or do I have to follow the plan that was started by Doug Wilson?
Whatever you think is going to get this team back to a competitive way, ASAP.
Yeah, ASAP is possible. So I'm buying out Jones for starters. Step number 2, look, say what you want about the contracts and the players that hold them. And I've been saying this for I don't know how long. But you've hitched your wagon to them. You have no other choice but to build around them. So I clear out, I think the top guy, Hertl, Kane, Meyer, LeBanc, Couture, these guys are fine in my book. I don't have a problem with any of them. You need to rebuild the supporting cast. I love Patrick Marleau. Stop bringing him back. Marcus Sorensen, Asta La Pasta, get some new blood in the supporting cast. Maybe that's Balsers. Maybe Gambrell gets more minutes. Donato, I'm a big fan of his. Barabanov, absolutely.
Can we talk about the blue line?
The blue line, but again, you've hitched your wagon to that blue line. You have to deal with it. I think maybe, Ferraro, Burns, Carlson, Knizhov, that's more often than not, I would say, are pretty solid pairings. So from there, I think you need to find a way, a hope and a prayer to move on from Mark-Edward Vlasic. I don't think you buy him out. I just think maybe you try to trade him. Maybe you tickle Seattle's taint a little bit to take him, which I doubt that as well. But if you can't do that, you need to find a right-handed defensive partner who supports what Vlasic can and cannot do. Mm-hmm. Similar to, Ferraro and Knizhov for Burns and Carlson. Okay, Burns and Carlson have a specific set of skills.
Have a very specific set of skills.
Ferraro and Knizhov pick up the slack that Burns and Carlson don't. Yeah. And so I think you need to do the same thing. Find somebody who can play with Mark-Edward Vlasic. That's number 2. Or I would say that's 2A. 2 is get rid of him. 2A, find somebody to play with him. 3, just wait. The Sharks have young guys. They have draft picks. Just wait.
Well, and our buddy Ian's saying that Vlasic is actually buyout proof.
No, that's why I'm saying That's why I said you don't buy him out, because it's like it'd be cheaper to keep him. So.
Oh man, don't get me started.
So I just wait. Right. Because the quick fix long term, I think will make things worse.
So what do you think that we're not going for foreseen points here. We're not trolling for cookies, but what do you think is most likely for the Sharks to do come the expansion draft? Do you think that they sit there and go, hey, we got a couple. I mean, Doug Wilson, again, let's talk about Doug Wilson for a hot second. He treats picks as currency, right?
As he should.
As he should. He talked about it's like, 8 picks coming up, could be 10. Do we see Doug Wilson float a pick towards Seattle's way if it encourages them to, say, take a Brent Burns or take some other contract? I just can't. No, I feel like the Sharks could go, we'll give you our next first round for the first rounders for the next 3 years if you take Martin Jones. And they're like, no, we're cool, man. We good, Vam.
Well, that's the thing is if you go back to the Vegas expansion draft, there were, I'm not going to say better players than Brent Burns, but there were less problematic players than Brent Burns that teams had to pay a first round pick in order for Vegas to take them. Yeah. Now, this is not to say that Burns is a worse player than them, but certainly more problematic. Age, contract, decline of offensive stats. I think you would be, people say, we need to rebuild, we need to retool. If you dangle something for Seattle to take a big contract, you're setting back the rebuild.
All right. Then we get the 23rd and 24th of July, the NHL Draft. That should be fun. Where do you think the Sharks end up finishing? Even forget the goddamn simulator. Just like, give me a number. It's like, 4. For some reason, I'm saying 4.
Well, so if everything was all said and done right now, the Sharks would be picking 9th overall. But I think they can do better than that. I mean, LA's got 3 more games. LA's got 3 more games. I could see the Sharks slide down to 8 or even 7 if LA goes on a little run here.
Mm-hmm.
Because Detroit and Columbus, who are 7 and 6, they're done. So they're not moving.
All right. And I need you to fill for about 30 seconds to a minute and a half. But July 28th, free agency opens. So we've got, again, 21st is the expansion draft, 23rd, 24th is the NHL draft, the 28th free agency window opens. So what do you think the Sharks do? And have we seen Martin Jones play his last game in teal?
Well, I certainly hope that we've seen Martin Jones play his last game in teal because, as we've said before, you can look past one bad year. You can say, reason A, B, or C. It happens. We'll get over it, whatever. But this has been the 3rd bad year of Martin Jones' tenure as the Sharks' number 1 goaltender. And it's getting to the point where the bad is starting to outweigh the good. Literally, 3 good years. Now this is the 3rd bad year. You got to throw him overboard. That's step number 1. I think the idea, it seems apparent to me that Kozhinash is one of the NHL goalies for next year. So
do they go for a stopgap?
I mean, you have to. I think, what goalie do you bring in? I've seen people say Carter Hutton. I've seen Chris Drager. I've seen a couple guys. But here's the thing.
Alex
Stalock. He's under contract with Edmonton.
I know.
But it's all dependent on where the Sharks see themselves. You know what I mean? If they think next year is a bounce back year and they want to be in the hunt, then maybe you take a look. Maybe you really swing for the fence on somebody like Tuukka Rask, Frederik Andersen,
Tuukka would be
Philip Grubauer, these guys. But if you say, next year is probably going to be a tough year, and we think that 2022-23 is going to be our year, okay? Maybe you go after a Pekka Rinne, an Antti Ranta, a James Reimer. Maybe you bring Devin Dubnyk back, honestly.
Okay, now, and I'm with you on this. I'm with you. Lacey wants to know if you paid the full 700 freight for that jersey. I'm with you on where you're going, but I think we also have to take into account that you're saying, next season is not is not the focus. It's the season after that.
I said if.
But if, again, I go back to, okay, so flat cap and who's expiring? Who are you going to need on here? It's going to be Hertl. It's going to be Ferraro. It's going to be Leonard. And I know that there's another one that I'm missing that's going to be pretty key.
Or you're talking about after next season? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, not this coming, but next year. Who are next year the final deals?
Knyzhov.
There you go. That was the other one. It's those young guys. That it's that triplet of Ferraro, Leonard, and Knyzhov. But again, Hertl, and dude. If Hertl continues what he's kind of started this season, and ever since, like we said, ever since the Rona, dude's been trucking, carrying the team, carrying that line. If he continues that next season, don't you think he's going to at least say, hey, I feel like I'm as good as Couture. I'll take his deal.
So that's the thing. I honestly don't think. Unless Ferraro and Knyzhov play as well as they did this year defensively, and then both somehow find a way to score 40 points each, I don't really think you need to worry about their contracts. As Ian Reed says,
Doug Wilson loves to screw those RFAs, baby.
Doug Wilson is very good at grinding down restricted free agents coming off of their entry-level deal. And same thing, I like John Leonard, but at this point, he's only proven to be a top guy in the AHL.
Yes.
I don't really think you need to worry about his contract.
Yeah. No.
So you're right to bring it up as a concern, but I don't really think it should weigh the most on Sharks fans' minds. I think, to your point, Tomas Hertl, that's the key, because I would argue
let me ask
season,
you this.
Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
This season, and depending on how next season goes, we could see Tomas Hertl play as good as or better than Logan Couture. And so, to your point, what's stopping him from saying, I'm good as Couture, give me that deal?
Okay, then. So let me ask you this. For all the talk of the culture change that was supposed to occur this season, which I would debate that something actually changed this season. Hell, even the records are almost identical from last season and this season. If there are no massive changes between now and October, and you're over 30, or you're a Tomas Hertl, you're an Evander Kane coming into your prime, and you're looking at this current roadmap that Wilson is throwing out there, is San Jose somewhere you want to stay?
Well, and that's the thing is you never know, because I could see, I don't want to get into it, but
Hertl, trade me right fucking now.
But like someone like Evander Kane, I could see him want to stick around just to eliminate as much headache as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him want to stick around, and I think that I see people all the time say, "Oh, we need Seattle to take Kane." Why? He literally is the MVP this year. I don't get it.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, in a big way. Yeah, like honestly, and I think we've had this conversation before, but it's like, if you're making like over $5 million and you're on the Sharks, can you say that anybody besides Kane lived up to their contract this season?
Hertl.
I would. Okay, yeah. You know what? But if we had talked about this a month ago, I would have been kind of hedging.
Yeah, but the guy was recovering from COVID. I give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But I think, I see in the chat Rizzo saying sell high on Hertl. I hate to say it, but if you
I agree.
I said it a couple weeks ago, and I was worried we were gonna have to bust out the Kleenex, but if you want to do a legitimate and a rebuild, not a rebuild.
I got you.
Not a rebuild, but if you are looking to retool or rejig or reconfigure, whatever word you want to use, you trade Hertl when his value is at an all-time high, and before you have to give him that Couture contract.
Yep.
And try and take a couple less value pieces back. Get a replacement second-line center who's maybe not as good as Hertl, and then maybe scoop yourself up a draft pick or two, or an A- prospect. You know what I mean? I think that has to be the play. And people don't really want to come to reality, but that's what you got to do in a retool. I mean, you're married to certain guys, as I said, Couture, Kane, Carlson, Burns, Vlasic. You're married to these guys. Hertl, he's only got next year under contract, and he's going to want a bunch of money.
Yep.
Trade him
right
and when his value's high, and get max value for him and kickstart the retool. And I make the comparison. Look, you think, people said that Carolina Hurricanes were stupid for trading Elias Lindholm because at the time he was around the same age and production as Tomas Hertl. But look at Carolina now. People say they're the best team in the East, or one of the best teams in the East. So it's clearly worked out for them.
Hey now. Just to have a little fun with this, because I enjoy poking the bear. You know this. Mm-hmm. Jerkman.
Yes.
You live in Vegas. You are known for patronizing a casino once in a while. Am I correct?
Sure.
All right.
I've helped to keep the lights on, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Over the next 6 seasons, which team would you bet shows up in the playoffs more, San Jose or Ottawa?
Ottawa. Well, no. I think it'll be the same.
Oh, you got to pick one or two. Okay, which one has?
Do I though?
Yes, you do, asshole.
I don't think so.
More play. Okay, I shouldn't say more playoff appearances. More rounds of the playoffs over the next 6 years.
Why don't you just say more playoff wins?
Fine. There you go.
I still think no. That's so hard. It's tough to say because I like the direction Ottawa is going, but I'm still not totally certain that they're there yet.
All right, but you know what my point is, right?
Yes, I do know.
Okay. So, I'm just saying. Look, let's move on.
And I want to mention really quick.
If you know, then you know.
Really quickly, Kevin Lacey, obviously you all know Kevin Lacey, saying, I don't think Hertl's value is at an all-time high. I think his value is only at its highest it's been so far.
Solid point.
Two things can be true.
Absolutely.
But you know what? Especially if let's just say he comes back to the full season next year, and what if he blows by his career high? Something to really think about.
Mm-hmm. So, we move on here. This is going to be fun because it's time to, shall we say, stick out the big old one-finger salute to a couple people. It's always a fun part of the show. A friend of the show. I'm not going to name names because if that person would like to remain anonymous, they will. And if they don't, they will let you know. But a friend of the show tipped us off early last week that Joe Thornton had put his Los Gatos abode, domicile, chalet, if you will, on the market. And TSN, Yahoo Sports, credited us with breaking that news. Now, again, huge thanks to the person who gave us that tip. We put it out there. We got credit for that. We appreciate it. But a big old huge middle finger to Claudine Zapp from Realtor.com and Poing Vongs from Bay Area News Group, who also, of course, is part of the Mercury. They wrote articles a week after we had broken the news, and they didn't even credit us, but they linked to the sites that did. And speaking of NBCS Bay Area, they'll probably post about it in about a month. But, yeah, just, big finger that way. Look, speaking of reports, I need a cocktail is what I need. The Wall Street Journal reported that NBC Universal is exploring streaming its sports channels or selling them off. Right now, they've evidently scrapped plans to stream NBC Sports Philadelphia on Peacock over fears of complicating their broader stream strategy. But what does this mean? Well, if you are someone who lives in the Bay Area and uses NBCS Bay Area, NBCS California to consume Giants, Athletics, Warriors, Sharks games, that may be changing. So just be aware of it. We're going to put a pin in this. If more news comes along, we'll get into it. But I got to look, I'm just saying, Jerk and I, Jerk likes to partake of the streaming variety where I will sometimes stream or just watch the broadcast. I enjoy both. But I got to tell you, man, if it's a tight game, like we're talking playoffs and everything like that, I don't want to be on the 2-minute stream delay. I'd hate to have Twitter open and you see something that pops up and go, oh my God, they won, and you haven't seen it yet because you're streaming it.
Sure. I mean, I think 2-minute delay is a bit of an exaggeration, but I get your point.
Well, I don't know. Have you, the pirate flag that we fly is pretty damn good. It's usually like, give or take 20 to 40 seconds.
I was going to say at most, I think it's been half a minute.
Yeah. But have you ever tried watching the NBCS stream on their website? Oofa.
No.
Oh, dude.
I don't waste my time with them.
I know, but when the pirate ship is down, sometimes you have to take other measures. And
sure.
It was I think it was like a solid 3 minutes. It's woof. But anyway, keep an eye on that space. Watch that space, ladies and gentlemen. Put a pin in it, if you will. All right, let's get on to the fun stuff. You've been waiting for it. I've been waiting. We've all been waiting for it. On May 6th, okay, that was 3 days ago, Colorado Avalanche forward Mikko Rantanen fined $2,000 as supplementary discipline for diving during a play with Mario Ferraro in an April 30th game. Here are my 2 questions for you, Jerk. 1, why did it take a week for them to throw down that discipline?
Honestly,
Is it because everybody was watching Tom Wilson video?
Yeah, I don't think I have a good answer for that. I mean, especially with how many people whose job it is to watch the game, I'm surprised it took that long. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you.
Right? And so my second question, of course, is, as we've discussed prior, why doesn't this happen more often? A penalty not called during the game, but taking a closer look. Oh, you know what? That requires some discipline. Let's get it out there.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I don't know if you're keeping an eye on the NHL PR Twitter. It was working overtime today. There was 5 fines and a suspension handed out earlier today.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, we're just going to throw all those out there. So let's get into the Tom Wilson stuff. I'm going to start this with Vancouver Canucks forward Zach McEwen. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
All right. Suspended for 1 game without pay for kneeing Edmonton Oilers defenseman Darnell Nurse. New York Rangers forward Pavel Buchnevich. Suspended for 1 game without pay for high sticking Washington Capitals forward Anthony Mantha. So let me see if I got this right. You can knee a guy, you get a game. High stick a guy, you can get a game. But you can punch a guy in the back of the head when he's face down. That only costs you 5G or 5G. I wish. No, $5,000, right? 5K, yeah. Whatever. Somebody, can I buy a vowel? But it only runs you $5,000, and you can take a superstar in the league, ragdoll him, and you get nothing.
Yeah, it should also be said that in this ragdolling,
didn't that person play for the Barracuda at one point? Ragdolling.
In this ragdolling, Panarin didn't have a helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
He was ragdolled by the collar of his jersey, so you never know. What if you pull on the jersey too hard? What if you never? I mean, Adam's apple injuries are very serious. That's something that could have happened. But also,
well, it's not as if there's a whole bunch of people out there with, I don't know, blades strapped to their feet. But go ahead.
No, I know, but you know what I mean. Like if I come up behind you and I yank on the back of your shirt really hard, your throat's probably gonna hurt.
Yep.
And also, to slam him into the ice head first in a league that claims they want to get rid of head injuries. But also, haters will say the Rangers only had 3 games left, but Panarin's going to miss those 3 games because he's hurt. And it looked to me like he slammed his shoulder or his neck on the ice.
Well, and what if New York was not going to miss the playoffs?
That, but also, what if Panarin hits his neck on the ice and becomes a quadriplegic? Cracks a vertebrae or 2. And I know people are going to say, oh, he wasn't hurt, so the punishment isn't that severe. I think that's bullshit, because I think if you intend on hurting somebody and you don't hurt them, you still intended on hurting them.
Mm-hmm. So I think you've one of the questions I have here, it's like, does this further prove that Department of Player Safety doesn't give a shit about player safety? I would say yes.
I agree. and I don't know if this is true. I would have to confirm it. But what I heard is that back when Tom Wilson boarded Brandon Carlo and got suspended for 7 games, originally George Parros didn't want to suspend him and only relented when Gary Bettman said, no, suspend him right now.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
And I'm sure, George Parros, he's a very well-educated person. He went to Princeton, I believe, so smart guy. But at the same time, it's kind of a mistake to have somebody who was known as an agitator, or I hate to say it, but a goon, because they want to keep that mindset alive. Like, and I've heard people say, older, people who are more fond of the old version of the NHL, where it's like, they basically equate not wanting to have your brain mushed into nothing as being soft. And it's like, no, I'd rather have my brain when I'm in my mid-40s.
Yeah. No, and see, and again, I'm just looking for consistency or something. It's like you saw Blichfeld get 2 games for an ill-timed shot, like during a play. And you go back and look at that shot on McKinnon, it's clear he was not headhunting. Like, he's going for the shot, missed the shot. He was actually trying to get off the ice. McKinnon kind of skated into his path. It was, an ill-timed event. But he got 2 games for that. Meanwhile, Wilson, is drilling a guy in the back of the head when he's face down, only gets $5,000, grabs another guy by the hair, pulls him down, gets nothing. But let's take it even a step further, too. How many people pointed out that Henrik Lundqvist got the same fine for squirting water on Sidney Crosby in 2014?
Yep.
And 7 years ago, $5,000 bought you a little bit more than it does today.
Yeah, well, even, it bought you a little more, but also was a bigger percentage of contracts at the time. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And we had a little talk about this off the air, but how about we just tie the fines to a percentage of what you make?
Yep.
Like, as far as I understand, like in Europe, or there's some portions of Europe, if you get a speeding ticket, it's not a definitive fine. Like in California, it's like, oh, you were, 10 over the limit, oh, $238. Doesn't matter if you were like driving, weaving in between people, putting people in danger, or out on the middle of I-5 when there's no one out there. It's like, no, you were caught. The fine is the same. I like the idea of going, no, it's going to be a percentage, because like $5,000 to Blichfeld is a little different than $5,000 to Tom Wilson or Connor McDavid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and yeah, but the problem with that is you're never going to get the NHLPA to agree to make that change.
Then I say we move to suspensions. That's the minimum. No more of this BS fining stuff. That's the only way it's going to change.
Yeah, and I want to point out something too. People in the chat, I've seen 2 people in the chat say that Panarin jumped on Tom Wilson's back. No, he did not jump on his back. He skated in and grabbed him and only left the ice when Tom Wilson stood up.
All right.
And even, let's just say, even if Panarin did jump on Tom Wilson's back, does that warrant having your head and neck slammed into the ice and then being punched in the head when you're down on the ice and then slammed down again?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, dude, Kevin Lacey going 4D chase saying maybe Putin had something to do with the hit on Panarin. Tom Wilson working a little Russian. Anyway, so aside from all this, can we talk about for a hot minute who the idiot that is running social media for Washington is?
Yeah, that was ill-timed, hey?
How do you put that tweet out? And then, of course, when you delete it, all it does is further prove that you fucked up. But I just don't even understand how you put that out. Like, how did you think that, this will be great? Like, I don't even get it. I think that I would have respected them more if they'd kept it up, because it's like, dude, you can't unring a bell. There are 200,000 screenshots of this. It ain't going away. Pepperidge Farms will remember.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to the Panarin thing. Satan is saying if you get on a guy's back who's double your size, wouldn't be surprised if you get slammed. I agree, but Panarin did not go into that thinking I'm going to jump on his back like a piggyback ride. No.
He's saying I want him off Buchnevich.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying this guy is hurting my teammate. I'm going to pull him off my teammate. And then Tom Wilson, because he has a screw loose, jumped right up and, watch the clip. There's a perfect replay that shows Tom Wilson getting to his feet, almost bounced Panarin in the air. Watch the clip. It's there.
Yeah. And let's talk about Wilson's history for a second. This is not a squeaky clean guy.
No, and I think while we're talking about the NHL's rules, I think it's bullshit that after 18 months you're no longer a repeat offender.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with that.
If let's just say
it's been 18 months and 1 day. Now I can go kill somebody and it doesn't.
Yeah, okay. Like let's say you check a guy in the head your rookie year and you're suspended for 5 games, and then 7 years later you get another suspension. I'm not really looking at that first suspension because it was most likely a one-off random play. But you look at the history here. He's averaging a suspension every 9 months, it seems. You'll say, oh, that was September 2017. He's not a repeat offender by definition. But here's the thing. That was 3.5 years ago. That's not very long ago. For some people, that's still a recent memory.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing, of course, being is that karma is a bitch, because I don't know if you know this, but Tom Wilson took a great knee shot yesterday against the Flyers. So we'll see how long that lasts. I mean, you never want somebody to get hurt, but at the same time, everybody gets their comeuppance. Yeah. So $5,000. Oh, go ahead. More thing, really quick. Jordan Carter pointing out the NHL said that it's unfair to question George Parros. But if you recall back to Wilson's hit on Brandon Carlo, you could make the argument that Gary Bettman questioned George Parros. Thank you. Exactly. So $5,000 for this. And so, as you would imagine, the Rangers are a little pissed off, issue a statement basically saying that, that they were disappointed that Wilson only saw a tiny little fine, basically calling out the NHL and Department of Player Safety failures for not taking, a larger action. And again, we've heard this before. We have to protect the superstars. Now, I'm of the ilk that you should have to protect everybody. Yep. But anyway, they said that we have a vote of no confidence in George Parros. And so what happened? Oh, feelings were hurt. And so when you get your feelings hurt, that's $250,000. Well, and here's the thing, too. Couple things that come out of this. So, number one, this statement was fully pushed by the owner of the Rangers. The owner, not the GM, not the president, not whoever, the owner. So, for starters, if I'm the owner of the Rangers, dude, as soon as that statement goes out, I'm writing the check and I'm mailing it. I don't care. Bettman, do you take Venmo? Exactly. And because honestly, losing $250,000, yeah, it probably sucks, but the Rangers are a cash flush team. But also, if you care about something enough, which the Rangers owner has showed here that he does, money doesn't matter. But also, the fact that it's an owner who pushed for this statement, and for those who don't know, the owners more or less run the league. So, just saying.
You know,
And so we saw what happened. We saw the fine. And then because of the quirky scheduling from COVID, of course, they would play again 2 days later. And exactly what you thought would happen happened. It's a party in the penalty box because you had 3 fights off the hop. And I lost count by the end of the first period, but I do know that this game set the NHL record for most fights in the first 5 minutes of any NHL game. That's pretty significant.
There were 6, yeah.
Oh, okay. And there you go. So
and that's the thing. If Tom, I think if Tom Wilson is suspended, you probably still see that line brawl to start the game, but I think that would be the end of it, because the reason why there were so many fights is because nobody had gotten to Wilson yet, so they were basically going to run through the team until they got to him.
Yeah, and so, like we said, the Rangers are fined because they hurt feelings. But the thing that really gets to me about this is the extent to which the Rangers expressed their disagreement was unacceptable. What is that? Because they made it public? And it's terribly unfair to question George Parros' professionalism and dedication. I don't think anybody mentioned his professionalism or dedication. I think what they're looking for is fucking consistency. That, my friends, is what the NHL fan is looking for from Department of Player Safety.
Would you like to know something? Just, even further, just kind of evidence, if you will, that this fine really was not a big deal for the owner and a fine worth paying.
Whip it out.
So it's a $250,000 fine. Yes?
Absolutely.
That is 0.0000125% of the Rangers owner's net worth.
And probably less of the value of the Rangers.
Yeah, well, and Ian Reed pointing out, according to Forbes, the Rangers are the most valuable team in terms of
all of them
monetary value.
Yeah,
and that's not to say, this is not turned into a whole rich people have a lot of money thing. This is what's the cost? Okay, here, because I still want my point out there.
Keep it.
Yep.
Well, it's that whole idea. It's like, dude, you play in the most famous arena in the biggest city on the planet. Chances are you probably got a couple bucks lying around.
Yeah, well, he also owns the Knicks, and to Marty T's point, has his hand in a couple other cookie jars as well.
There you go. And here's another question I have about this whole debacle. We see Department of Player Safety throw out videos left and right. It's like, this is kneeing, and this is why we have done this, and blah, 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 blah. I want to see Department of Player Safety start releasing videos that explain why this is not considered blah, blah, blah. Like, tell me why you didn't, throw a suspension out there. I want to see the video. Do the same video, but explain yourselves as to why you said that, you know what, this one, not suspension worthy. I want to know. So
Kevin Lacey furthering my point that the Rangers have plenty of money to do whatever they want.
So, okay. Oh, you know what? I'm such a bad host. I forgot to lay our graphics in there, mofo. Around the NHL. There we go. All right. I don't know if you know this. The coaching carousel has begun. Everybody, grab your hobby horse. Here we go. John Tortorella. What is it? Conscious uncoupling?
Mutually agreed to part ways.
Yeah. All right. Conscious uncoupling. Whatever. So Torts is out in Columbus, and we heard that despite beating the Sharks yesterday, Rick Tocchet is out in Arizona. Mm-hmm. So as we all know happens on social media, there is, no matter who the person is, anytime someone becomes available, coach, player, equipment guy, if they didn't get canned from San Jose, there's going to be a group of people that say, should the Sharks go after him? Should the Sharks get Tortorella? Should they go after Rick Tocchet?
No. Well, I mean, Rick Tocchet, I would actually be open to that, because we've seen Arizona's rosters the last 3 years. Not really a whole lot there, but he found a way to get things out of people.
Yeah.
So I could be okay with Rick Tocchet, but Torts, absolutely not. But also, I don't even really think this is a conversation worth having because Bob Boughner has 2 more years as the Sharks coach. They're not going to fire him after less than a year.
But it does exactly what you're saying. However, I do believe, I think it was Pierre LeBrun, there was somebody today that mentioned that Arizona may be wanting to take a look at Rocky Thompson from the Sharks coaching staff.
And from what I remember when he was hired, I think a lot of people of stature within the media industry were all kind of speculating if San Jose was a stepping stone to being a head coach.
Interesting.
Which I'm like, if a guy says to me, oh, I want to go to San Jose to hone my skills as a head coach, that's a pretty complimentary of San Jose, no?
I would imagine. And well, we also got to wait until Seattle hires Brindamore. Yes.
No, Brindamore. Well, it's already it's unofficially official, but Brindamore is staying in Carolina.
Well, look, let's move on to the awards as we're at the end of the season. Who you got for you? Who? What?
End of the show.
End of the show. that too. Well, both. 2 things can be true.
Yes.
Vezina, best goalie. Who you got?
Vasilevsky.
Yeah. Same on my ballot. I don't know that you're going to get a whole lot of debate in that regard.
I think I think Connor Hellebuck will get nominated again. But
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that's the thing is it's always like who's going to win. And I never really feel comfortable answering those kinds of questions. I like saying who's going to be nominated because it's open. Yeah. It's a little more open-ended. You know what I mean?
All
but
right.
But despite that, something like best goalie this year, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, 31 wins out of 41 starts, 926 save percentage. Like,
as Hockey Jerk would say, might be good.
Yeah, but you know what? Philip Grubauer's in that conversation. Marc-Andre Fleury, Tristan Jarry, apparently. UC Saros. So the list of candidates is long. But again, I think Vasilevsky has it sewed up.
All right. For the Norris, again, your nominations, I'm assuming some combination of Adam Fox, Tyson Barrie, Chris Letang.
Adam Fox, yes. Tyson Barrie, yes.
Can I interest you in a Chychrun?
Yeah, I would say Fox, Barrie, Jacob Chychrun. I mean, Jacob Chychrun is very good defensively.
And
he's
not
also
on a
got
great
18 goals this year.
Yeah, and not on a great team.
18 goals as a defenseman.
Mm-hmm. Boy, makes me want to give that guy $11.5 million.
And you know what, though? Race Fan, I think the fire has cooled down a bit, but Race Fan Rocks also saying, Darnell Nurse could get some sleeper votes. I would see that. Maybe Shea Theodore, maybe Dougie Hamilton, maybe Jeff Petrie, Cale Makar. Cale Makar I see getting nominated. But there's just the list of candidates is very long, and that's kind of where the NHL is going, where everybody is good, it seems.
Unless you're talking about the Hart Trophy. I think that one's pretty easy to etch. I think it might be.
What, McDavid?
100 points in how many games?
53.
Jesus Christ.
And you know what's funny is, so they said on Overdrive, they said any media member who doesn't vote McDavid for the Hart Trophy should lose their voting privileges.
I would agree. That needs to be unanimous. The one place that's not going to be unanimous? Pittsburgh.
Well, and you know that there's going to be some hero who gives Austin Matthews a first place vote.
Oh yeah. Well, he's going to get the Richard. Leave it alone.
But that's what I'm saying is there's always one media member who has to play hero, and they say, "Oh, well, this guy took a boarding penalty against the team I follow. I'm not going to vote for him."
So Calder, Rookie of the Year. I mean, again, this is kind of the same thing with McDavid. It's like if Kaprizov's name isn't already etched, there's a problem somewhere. Who could be a hero in this regard?
Well, the thing that I would say is, like, to your point, I think it's very easy to say, yes, it's going to be Kirill Kaprizov. What may kind of be a boot to the groin for a lot of Sharks fans, I could see Josh Norris be a nominee.
Oh,
Because
I'm okay with that.
Because here's the thing, even though it's pretty much sewed up for Kirill Kaprizov, for formality's sake, you have to have 3 nominees.
Yeah. No, I like that.
And Josh Norris is 3rd in rookie scoring.
Oh, man.
And to your point earlier, AJ, he's on a pretty crappy team.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm going to say this. Good for Minnesota. Because it's it seems like they've never really had like a big superstar. You know what I mean?
Their last superstar was Marian Gaborik.
My point exactly.
And he left Minnesota, I think, in 2008.
Yeah. So again, my point being, good for Minnesota. It's nice to see that. And then, of course, I mean, we talk about McDavid automatically etched on the Hart, Kaprizov automatically etched on the Calder. I think we'd be remiss if we don't think that Tom Wilson isn't automatically etched on the Lady Byng. Am I right?
Right. And you know what? And Kevin as well, Kevin saying Nedeljkovic, the goalie in Carolina, I don't know if he ends up being a nominee. But same thing, I could see him get some sleeper votes. So I think that's a good point to make about Kevin.
I think Lacey needs to get a vote for spelling that name correctly.
Yeah, no kidding.
So there we go. I think it's time to kind of move on to one of my favorite segments, Tweet of the Week. This one is actually going out to Twitter. Not so much a tweet, but a description of what was going on when Tom Wilson was trending. Capital forward Tom Wilson is handed 3 penalties in the second quarter. I'm sorry, what? Quarter?
Well,
dude, I'm surprised they didn't say inning.
Well, did you happen to see part 2 of this trend on Twitter?
Oh no, I did not. What was it?
So after it came out that there was no suspension, it said forward Tom Wilson, NHL fans are in outroar over Flyers forward Tom Wilson not receiving a suspension.
Flyers?
Yes, I didn't misspeak.
Man, it's just amazing how little respect NHL gets. Like, I shouldn't even say respect, just how ignorant how much ignorance is
Basic
out there.
Thought.
Yeah. I mean, what were we talking about before we came on air? I saw something on social media that I was like, the fact that somebody was talking, they were talking about moves that the Sharks had made. And someone said, well, the Sharks have a history of this. Look what happened. They got Owen Nolan. They traded away Sandus Ozolinsh. And what did he do? He just went to Colorado and won 2 cups. Sir, he only won 1.
Not only that, but I don't think Christ. I love Sandus Ozolinsh, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he was make or break for Colorado's cup back in 96.
Yeah, and you know what though? I mean, is much of an impact as Owen Nolan had on the Sharks, because you go back and you look at that era. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of identity surrounding this team. Yes, you had kind of the misfits, miracle grouping, whatever you want to call it, with Urbe and Bob Arie as the captain, and Ulf Dahlin and Jamie Baker with the shot heard around the world as far as Sharks fans were concerned. But that whole kind of miracle of 94 and a little bit of it rubbed off on 95. But over the course of that, from the inception of the team through about 96, this team didn't have much of an identity in those first 5 years. Then they make that move. They bring in Owen Nolan, this, tough Irish son of a bitch, and they get Mike Ricci, and you bring in Daryl Sutter, and all of a sudden the team has this kind of hard-nosed, hard-edge identity about them. But it does make me wonder, how long did it take for the Sharks to find a power play quarterback, somebody that could patrol that blue line for a stretch? It certainly wasn't going to be Mike Rathje.
Well, that's the thing.
It makes you wonder if
Ozolinsh,
if they actually should have made that move.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. After Ozolinsh, I mean, unless I'm seriously forgetting, I mean, Brad Stewart, I love Brad Stewart, and he was kind of the poor man's Sandis Ozolinsh, but not obviously Sandis Ozolinsh or a replacement player. But Brad Stewart, I think, like I said, maybe discount Ozolinsh a little bit, but really not until Dan Boyle.
You're right.
As much as I love Brad Stewart, don't get me wrong.
I'm right there. So I think that can wrap this one up. Our penultimate episode of the season. If you don't know what that means, look it up. You can follow him at Hockey Jerk. You can follow me at AJ_Strong. Oh, I'm sorry. You can follow him at Hockey_Jerk.
Yeah, respect the underscore.
Hey, now. Follow me at AJ_Strong. If you have any questions, topics you ever want to hear us discuss on the show, please send them over to @TealTownUSA on Twitter. Once again, if you ever miss a show, would like to catch it again, find it on your favorite podcast platform, on the YouTube channel at TealTownUSA.com. Don't forget to follow us on our social media networks, channels, whatever you want to call them. But just look, if you're on a social media platform, you're looking for us, do us a favor. Search Tealtown USA, throw us a follow. And hit that subscribe button, tell a friend. Famous last words for you, Jerk.
So on Saturday, yesterday, if you're listening live, the Barracuda were in town to play the Henderson Silver Knights, and the game was actually at the T-Mobile Arena. So I said to the lady friend who's never been to a hockey game before, I said, "What are your thoughts on this?" And she was like, "All right, let's go."
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, "Well, I got this book I really want to get into." But go ahead.
So, we went to the game, for really, I mean, obviously it's AHL hockey, not NHL hockey, but good seats for the price. Barracuda obviously lost, but couple takeaways, despite it being the AHL team stepping into the NHL building, the warm-up music is still loud as all hell. They need to dial it back a little bit. As much as I love loud music, dial it back a little.
How was attendance?
They said, I think 3,100 people, which is pretty good for AHL hockey.
Yeah, I'd say.
Oscar Dansk, the Henderson goalie, dialed in, like was just crushing it. And he allowed 3 goals, but he played so well.
Well, and he's seen some time with the big club, so
yeah, he has a win against the Sharks this year.
So who doesn't?
Danny O'Regan, former Barracuda, who's been cutting the Barracuda up a little bit this year, scored again. So that was really something. And actually, what's kind of funny is evidently somebody who follows me on Twitter was sitting behind me, and I had no idea.
Nice.
So, I posted a photo of my seats, and this guy, he was like, "Oh, hey, I was behind you." And I look, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you were." But you know what? I had a good time. You know what I mean? It's an awesome building, and it's been a minute since I've seen the Barracuda play live, so it was fun. And weirdly, I think the Silver Knights have a very fun goal song. I don't know, I just like it. But
right. Well, and
that's another conversation.
I have to know, how did the lady friend enjoy the live experience?
She thought it was fun. I was telling her, like, it's definitely different, versus watching on TV. So she enjoyed it, and she got a Silver Knights hat because, she's the local, she's from Vegas. And I was like, okay, cool. That's whatever, but we had a good time. She said it was something that she would be interested in doing again. So that's cool.
All right. I have to ask you, do they have we've seen it happen in different barns. Not every barn has one, but does Vegas have a bleached asshole youth pastor guy there?
Oh my God.
Anybody on a microphone like telling you when to scream or anything?
They do. His name is Bojo.
Bojo, okay.
But he didn't come around. He didn't come around as much as other in-arena hosts. I think he laid out at the right time and he stepped in at the right time. So I thought it was okay. What I really enjoyed, and Kevin is with me here. You know what, Kevin? It's better than the Golden Knights logo. He's talking about the Henderson Silver Knights logo. I
like the Silver Knights one better than the Vegas one, to be honest with you.
I like it better than the Golden Knights one, but it's a little weird for me. But I generally speaking dig it. But Kevin mentioning the town crier that the Silver Knights have, he was my favorite part of the in-game entertainment. Every time Henderson scores a goal, they have a guy, he's dressed up as the town crier. He's got the get up. He's got the vuvuzela or whatever. And he just, yeah. And, he gets after it. And it was, honestly, of all the in-game entertainment, it was my favorite part.
All right. Well, of course, my famous last words, you're going to enjoy them. Joe Pavelski, 24 goals, 26 assists, 50 points, plus 24. The third best season, on pace, third best season of his career. Imagine what this guy would be doing if he wasn't a washed-up has-been.
Yeah, it makes you think.
Oh, imagine. By the way, for those of you who don't have the stats readily in front of you, yes, those stats better than anybody on the Sharks right now. Just saying.
And actually, I threw it into the module, Pavelski's goals this year.
Oh, let me hear it.
So he's got, as we know, he's got 24 goals this year. At the time of recording, 10 of them are high value goals.
I'm surprised the number is that low, to be honest with you.
But also, 19 of 24 are mid or high value.
And you look at it, 50 points. I don't have the numbers readily available, but I'm going to say that probably 24 to 26 of those came on the power play.
Well, see, that's the beautiful thing about a website called Hockey Reference is it'll tell you that. So he's got 24 goals, 13 of them on the power play, and 26 assists. Only 8 power play assists.
Oh, so 21 power play points then?
Yeah, out of 50. That's still pretty incredible. And also 50 points in 54 games over an 82-game season. That is 76 points. And if you're keeping track at home, that would be his third best season.
But Satan bringing up a point, and I'm really glad Satan did. Dallas also out of the playoffs. Yeah, exactly my point. He's not doing this on a wagon. He's doing this on a team that was struggling this season. They had they had the late start. They had to deal with the Rona like more than once. Then can we all like rewind the clock a couple months? Yeah, that ridiculous snowstorm that like shut everything down for a week. I mean, Dallas has had a ton to deal with this season, and they just barely missed the playoffs.
Well, and also too because of Tyler Seguin's injuries, he's only played in 3 games this year.
There you go. There's that too. And didn't Bishop miss like pretty much the whole season?
Literally the whole season.
So so there's like a lot that did not fall Dallas's way, and Pavelski was still able to pull this off.
It's just you know what? I hate to say it, but it's because Yoel Kiviranta wasn't able to build on his playoff run from last year.
Dude, imagine if Pavelski was good.
Yeah,
if he was worth keeping. That
said, I still think it was the right play to let him go based on the information at the time.
It's a kick in the smalls, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definite boot to the groin, but what can you do?
Yeah. So we're into this at a tight 90 minutes. Gotta love it.
Double the amount of time we want to go.
Yes, pretty much. So do us a favor, subscribe to our YouTube channel or whatever podcast app you use. You can find everything on tealtownusa.com. And remember, there's only one left this season, but check out After Dark, the post-game show that follows every single Sharks game. And that's our show. We will come at you one more time this season next Sunday to wrap it all up. So join us for episode 133 next week. Thanks a lot for watching or listening, and we will catch you then. Have a great Mother's Day and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everyone. Good night.